Today we're going to be taking our notes 7.6 through 7.8. It's the review notes that you're going to need to have for our quiz that's coming up on Monday. So it'll be over these three sections, 7.6, 7.7, and 7.8. This right here is something that you're going to definitely want to know. On your quiz, there will be a section that asks you, how do you write the greater than symbol? Okay, so you're going to have to write down what the greater than symbol is, or it might ask you about less than, or greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. Okay, this is also something you're going to want to know for your quiz and for your test coming up next week. The domain is an X. So if I ask you a question, like which one is the domain, you're going to have to be able to tell me that is the X. The range will always be your Y. And then this key point down here, when graphing inequalities, you have to flip the symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative number. So the main thing you got to know, it's only if you're multiplying or dividing, and also it must be a negative number. And if you ever have that, that is when you're going to flip the symbol or the sign. Number 1, tell whether the value of m is a solution to the inequality m is greater than or equal to 6. Okay, very good job. The first thing that we want to do is go ahead and write this equation that was in our instructions. M is greater than or equal to 6. Now what do I do? Okay, I put in that substitution for m. And what do you think? Yes or no? Is this a solution to that inequality? No, it is not. Okay, negative 6 is definitely not equal to 6, and it's definitely not bigger. So no, that is not a solution. Number 2 says make an input-output table, use 1, 2, and 3 for the domain, and then we're going to try to find the range. So the first thing I'm going to do, what is it, Mason?
Write an X and Y charts table.
Okay.
And put the 1, 2, and 3 on the X.
I'm going to do a 1, a 2, and a 3.
Then you rewrite the original problem 3 times.
Okay, let's rewrite that original problem because I'm going to have to plug it in. So write it 3 times because it gave us 3 numbers for our X.
Can I do the whole thing?
Yeah, go ahead. What am I going to do?
Then you erase the X's.
Okay, let's get rid of those X's. What am I going to plug in instead?
1, 2.
Do I just stick the 1 right next to it?
No, you put parentheses.
Go ahead and put parentheses. How come?
Because you're multiplying.
Because I'm multiplying. Whenever you have a number right next to a variable, you will always multiply them together. What about the next one?
The equals negative 4.
Okay, let's do this right here. What else goes right there? What am I going to plug in?
Times 2.
Times 2, and the last one?
Times 3.
Excellent. Okay, so now we are inputting this right here. I'm putting my X in and seeing what comes out for my Y. What do you get when you put that in?
Negative 4.
Okay. What about for the 2?
Negative 8.
And what about for the 3?
Negative 12.
Okay. Do you guys see any kind of a pattern there?
Plus 4.
You are adding 4 every time. So as you can see, 4, that negative 4 plus 4, what would negative 4 plus 4 be?
8.
No.
0.
It would be 0. So my pattern is actually not to add 4. What is my pattern? I am subtracting 4. Negative 4 minus 4 equals
8.
negative 8. Then negative 8 minus 4 equals
Negative 12.
negative 12. So you can see there was a pattern going on. I subtracted 4 each time. Let's go on to the next one. Number 3. Solve the inequality and then graph the solution. The first one says negative 3x is less than 18. What's my entire goal when I'm solving inequalities? Get the x all by itself. What's not allowing the x to be by itself? Negative 3. Help me out with what to do. You divide by negative 3. Good job. Both sides. That cancels out. X is less than negative 6. Good job. Now, There is a time when we need to flip our symbol. Is this one of those times? Yes, it is. Why is it one of those times? Okay, the last thing I did was divide by a negative number. So now what should my answer be? X is greater than negative 6. Please double check what your instructions say. This says solve the inequality, which she just solved it for us. Now we have to graph the solution. So whenever we graph the solution, how many points are going to be on my line?
3.
3 of them. Okay, Sherelle, help me out. Very good job. Is this going to be a closed circle or an open circle? Why is it open? Because there's no equal sign. So that means negative 6 cannot be an answer. Now we got to figure out which one would be the answer. Would negative 7 make sense or would negative 5 make sense? Okay, I'm getting a few negative 5s. What would you rather have? Negative $5 or negative $6?
Negative.
I'd rather have negative 5. I only owe somebody $5 instead of owing them 6. And then the other way to double check, look at your sign. Does it look like my arrow is facing the same way, yes or no? Yes, it does, so that kind of checks out. 2b minus 13 is greater than 9. My entire goal is to get what? B has to be alone. So guys, tell me this. Should I get rid of the 2 that's on that side first or the negative 13?
Negative 13.
Negative 13. You never want to take away the one that is attached to the B first. So let them stay together as long as possible. Tati, help me out. What should I do? Okay, I'm going to add 13. Okay, you want to do it to both sides? That, okay, first thing you want to do is bring down your 2b. Bring down the greater than sign. Very good job. Am I done now? No, I got to get rid of the... How do I get rid of that 2? Divide by? Okay, be fair. Do it to both sides. What do you get? B is greater than 11. When is it that I need to flip my symbol? When you multiply or divide by a negative number, and that's your last step. Is that what I did? No. So my answer is B is greater than 11. Okay, so the next step that we've got to do, it says graph the solution. How do I graph this? Okay, 3 points. What goes in the middle? 11. What's going to go to the left? 10, 11, and? Is this an open circle or a closed circle? Why is it open? There's no equal sign, okay? Which number would make sense? 10 is greater than 11 or 12 is greater than 11? 12. So my arrow is going to be covering up that. Do your double check just to make sure that the arrows are facing the same way. Are they facing the same way, guys? That goes that way, that goes that way. They are the same way, so it does check out. Number 4 says, tell whether the graph represents a function of x. If it does, then tell whether the function is linear or nonlinear. If you remember from yesterday, we kind of reviewed over this. The way that you tell if something is a function is by doing that vertical line test. How many times is it allowed to touch my graph? 1 time. If it only touches it 1 time, then it is a function. Is this first one a function, yes or no?
No.
No, it's not, because you can see I touched it right here. I also touched it right here. So this one is not a function. The next one, I'm going to do my vertical line test. Once again, it's allowed to touch 1 time. How many times does it touch when I do that vertical line test? Only 1 time. So is it a function, yes or no? It is a function, so I'm just going to write the word function. Now, because it's a function, I want to know, is this a linear function or a nonlinear function?
Linear.
Linear. How can you tell if something's a linear function? It's a straight line, and that graph is a straight line. For the last problem we do today, number 5, we're going to graph the function y equals negative x minus 4. Now, whenever I don't tell you what the domain is, every single time you're going to use what three numbers?
-1, 0, 1.
-1, 0, and 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the x. Now here's where you got to be a little bit careful. I've got a negative sign there. So I'm going to go ahead and just stick this into parentheses so that I can see it's a double negative there. This is a -0. This is a -1. Okay? Right here when I've got this double negative, minus, -1, what does that mean? It becomes a positive. Anytime you have a double negative, two negatives side by side with no number between them, then that means you've got a double negative, which turns into a positive. So what would my output be when I plug in negative, -1, -4? Not 3. -3. So let's go to the second one. I input a 0. What comes out of it?
Oh, -4.
-4. And last one, -1 minus 4? -5. Do you see any kind of a pattern happening right here on my output?
-1.
I am subtracting 1 each time. Now, you got to remember it's asking us to graph the function. So let's go ahead and put a coordinate plane here. I'm plugging in -1 and -3. How do I get there? I always start at the origin, so I go, okay, go to the left one and down to -3. That's my first point. Next up, Kayla, help me out. What do I do? Start at the 0?
And then go all the way down to -4.
Go down to -4. Last one, help me out, Ashley. 1 and -5.
You go to
Which one?
You go to the right on the x-axis.
Okay, I go to the right one and down to -5. And then your main thing you want to do is connect your dots to complete your graph. On Monday, you will have a quiz. So over the weekend, I need you to study 7.6. This should actually say to 7.8 for your quiz on Monday.